One of the most profound moments in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood goes down in the first act of the show. Now, if you've never seen Fullmetal, to get this, you just need to know that Edward and Alphonse are brothers. Very early in the show, a flashback reveals that the boys try to use alchemy to bring their late mother back to life. But the transmutation horribly misfires and Al loses his body in the process. To save him, Ed tethers his soul to this suit of armor, and now, this is Alphonse. The anime follows their journey to find a way to get Al's body back. And in episode 8, we find him throwing hands with another suit of armor, a former serial killer called Barry the Chopper. Barry is like Al. He was killed on death row and his soul was bonded to this suit. After learning that Al is just like him, Barry poses an interesting question.
Are you sure that you're not a puppet created and controlled by your so-called brother? Were you ever even a real person to begin with?
This shakes Alphonse to the core. Wait, how can he be sure? But hang on, he has memories.
And who's to say those memories aren't made up?
But Winry and Granny, they know me.
That's easy, they're in on it too.
What if Barry's right? How can Al know for sure? Does he bring this up to Ed? An existential storm rolls in for Alphonse. How can he be sure that anything he has ever known about himself is real?
Close your eyes.
This small arc of the show paints a particular color of panic that you can find across all of fiction. Characters that are artificial in some way and contemplate their existence. The swelling of confusion and fury that Mewtwo feels upon discovering that he was created in a lab. The horror Vivi feels in Final Fantasy IX at the revelation that he was built to be a killing machine. Vision in Marvel, Andrew in Bicentennial Man, Edward Scissorhands from Lies of P. These characters are fascinating to us as humans because in some way we do relate to the questions they ask, right? We have all contemplated our own existence, our own purpose. We have struggled to understand why other humans interact and behave in the way that they do. Maybe we have felt robotic in social situations when others seem to take to it so naturally. We can probably all agree that there is also something fascinating about exploring where that line between human and imitation truly resides. Is it the ability to do harm for a just cause? Is it the ability to lie out of empathy? Is it true altruism? Is it affection? Is it something else? But I think we, as sluts for good storytelling, get bogged down in these components of the fake human character trope. After all, as humans, we understand what it is to be human and enjoy watching something carry all the crosses we bear. There is something to delight in seeing something synthetic or unnatural take up the weight of all that is us. But I'm here to tell you that I think there is another part of these characters that we lose when we simply focus on the I think therefore I am aspect of them. There is something a little more tender at play, something subtle that I think makes us want to protect Vivi at all costs, that makes us yearn for Data to be happy, that makes us want to give Al a hug and let him know that he is, in fact, real. So, I invite you to take a deep seat and allow me to guide you on a tour through one of my very favorite character tropes and a few stories that I have been yearning to talk to you about. There will be spoilers, some small, some big, but I'll mark them with timestamps like always. Most of these narratives serve the same point, so it is okay to skip here and there. Grab a snack, let me knock out this sponsor read, then we'll dive right in. As I get older, I find myself enchanted by learning more, and it's kind of that motivation that started this channel. Maybe it's why you're here. Perhaps you too want to broaden your horizons. Boot.Dev is a wonderful avenue to do this if you want to learn to code. And what makes it special is that it uses modern game design to teach you. Instead of slamming you with a textbook and oceans of information, Boot introduces coding concepts by letting you get your hands dirty one concept at a time. This is true even if you're a complete beginner or just need a refresher to pick up where you left off. Over the course of your lessons, you'll earn XP, levels, achievements, complete quests, fight bosses. All these things are in place to make the grind of coding both approachable and engaging. You don't want to be overwhelmed, but you also don't want to be bored, and Boot.Dev prides itself in keeping you right in that sweet spot, that flow state between the two, just like a game that you can't stop playing. Imagine that same sensation of itching to get back to playing, but you're cultivating a marketable skill. The back-end development career field is expansive, pays very well, and even has opportunities for remote work. But let's start small. You're just curious, right? Why not go and view all of their content for free in guest mode and maybe even give that free demo a try? And if you're all in and would like 25% off your entire first year, go to Boot.Dev and use my code DarylTalksGames at checkout. Link in the description, QR code on screen. Go learn something new, my friends. It may just impact your future and be exactly what you've been looking for. A huge thanks to Boot for the sponsor. Now, let's get back to the video.
One more thing I should mention. The hotel security excludes puppets like you. So you'll have to lie to get inside. You're a special puppet after all.
The first real decision you make in Lies of P is whether or not you lie to this hotel security system. You see, puppets in Krot cannot lie. It is how they are wired. It goes against something called the Grand Covenant, a series of rules made by Geppetto, the puppet's original creator, that dictate how these animatronic people behave. Hotel Krot's security system simply asks if you are a human, and since puppets can't lie, well, they tend to stay out. But your puppet is a clever one, and on his behalf, you do lie to get into the hotel. In case you couldn't tell from the title, lying is the axis that this game's narrative and themes revolve around. Yes, you fight stuff and gain something called ergo, which makes you stronger, but the character of the clever one here is really explored through his interactions with others and how you manage his choices. One of my favorite examples is how you handle this request from someone named Belle. She asks if you, when you go to Krot Central Station, could look for her partner Atkinson. Unfortunately, when you find him, he has been infected by the petrification disease, and there is no cure. When you return to her, you can be honest and say that he has become a monster, or you can spare her pain and tell her that he died with honor. Though heartbroken, she takes solace in the closure and genuinely thanks you. Something inside of the clever puppet reacts. Another one that really stuck with me was a conundrum you face regarding a woman who is dying of the petrification disease. You have a treatment that will keep her alive for longer, but ultimately it will prolong her suffering. Is it better to save her life, at least for now? Or is it more humane to allow her a natural death? Would she really be living if you kept her around? What these moral dilemmas do is present complex, emotionally taxing questions to our puppet, and it's because of them that his humanity grows. Initially, his springs react to the more human responses, but soon the ergo in his heart whispers. Eventually, he feels warmth. The language used to describe these stirrings grows as he does. The hotel cat, once cold and indifferent, eventually warms up to the clever one. The game does a wonderful job of reflecting your humanity in subtle ways like this. And something that you can't help but notice is that beyond the ergo you get from taking on basic enemies, there is a special ergo as well that you get from bosses. Unique veins of ergo. That's curious. It's also curious when you find excerpts about a puppet named Camille, the first automaton to ever develop an ego. Like the clever one, she acted altruistically and empathetically, catching a baby who fell from a crib. Upon further research, the Order found that nothing was really wrong with her. She was acting completely on her own. She even spoke defensively, motherly. Send me back to my child. Just outside the Opera House, you can find a statue of a woman named Camille, someone who is dearly missed. Without saying too much here, these matching names are likely not a coincidence, and as you piece these things together, you get the sense that ergo may be more than a power source. It may also contain the memories of those who are no longer with us. Perhaps Camille's unique ergo, like Al's soul, became tethered to this maid automaton. And If that's how it works, if the humanity of the puppets comes from someone's ergo, that begs the question, who is the clever puppet's ergo from? Fullmetal Alchemist is much less cryptic early on. If you've seen the show, you know that it wastes very little time showing you the dark side of alchemy, what can go wrong if you recklessly ask too much of it, the truly horrifying cost of tampering with the divine. Early in the first arc of Fullmetal, Ed and Al read about something called the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary artifact that is said to allow you to bend the rules of alchemy to your will. No equivalent exchange, no following the rules of nature, simply transmute whatever you like. And this is their first real lead in reclaiming Al's body and Ed's limbs. However, they quickly discover that the stones are crafted using human lives.
This is the devil's research. It should have been destroyed. Dr. Marco was right, it's evil.
The stones are calcified souls, coagulated memories that fuel advanced alchemy. And if you watched the Lies of P section just now, you may go, that sounds familiar. The use of these stones becomes this moral compass that separates the good guys from the bad guys, right? Ed and Al deeply wrestle with the possibility of using these people as fuel for their own desires. Ed knows from experience that souls can be salvaged and have value. Al knows what it's like to be trapped in something other than his own body. How could they possibly condone the use of these evil gems? The villains really don't give a shit, but the existence of these Philosopher's Stones creates an interesting question that weaves itself into the story. When is someone truly gone? Are these suits of armor really people?
With bodies like these, are we really even people?
I consider you people whether you have physical bodies or not.
Do these lost spirits who have no hope of returning to their bodies have value? Or is this the equivalent of keeping someone on life support when they aren't truly living anymore? After all, it's that kind of thinking that got the boys into this mess. If the people truly are gone now, is it morally correct to now use their souls as gunpowder to save the people that are still with us? Is that a better way to honor them?
Don't use it for yourself. Use it to save the entire world instead. Even though they're trapped in stone, they still want to fight to protect what matters to them.
Fullmetal Alchemist, like Lies of P, is a narrative that cannot escape the ghosts of its past. In the former, memories shape identity and choices. In the latter, memories torture and cling to characters like a curse. Greed wants to forget his comrades because the memory of them hurts too much to bear. Whereas Al desperately grasps at his past like freshly shredded strips of paper, terrified to lose what he once was. After all, without them, he is only a puppet. If you ask anyone who has played Final Fantasy IX who their favorite character is, I'd put money on them saying Vivi. Even if you haven't played, odds are you recognize this little guy. The striped pants, the patchy mage hat, the adorable little glowing eyes, the incredibly broken Magic the Gathering card. It's an iconic character design, but what makes him so instantly intriguing in this narrative is that he doesn't really know much about himself. We find him basically wandering traffic at the start of the game, for goodness sake. But for much of the first act, Vivi is searching for answers about his existence. Where did he come from? Why is he different from everyone else? And over time, he gets those answers. We learn that he's been manufactured. We find others like him, but they don't speak to him. We find others like him, and they are instruments of war. Is this all he was meant to be? Why does he think for himself, whereas others seem to be mindless killing machines? Is there a chance he could become that again? Just as Ergo powers Krat and Lies of P, the mist on this continent fuels each industrially booming kingdom. Airships fly with its power, machinery breathes it and converts it into energy. Even Vivi himself and all of the other black mages are made using this mysterious mist. And early in the game, you kind of dismiss that. We don't know much about the mist other than the fact that it's fuel and it's causing the animals in the lowlands to morph and act violently. But it does complicate your theories about Vivi. This is what he's running on, so what exactly is it? But eventually, in the gang's search to find answers, you'll happen upon an entire village of mages just like Vivi. Mages that are no longer weapons, but instead docile, kind, contemplative, caring, and just as lost as Vivi. It's here that he learns that other mages have stopped moving. He must now grasp for the very first time what it means to die. Apparently, most of the mages live for about a year before they expire, and this haunts him. It keeps him up at night. And in one of my favorite scenes of the game, he asks mage number 288 what he feels about the idea of death. And 288 replies, "I don't know. Fear? I don't want to stop, and maybe I want to run away from it all. But living in the village with everyone fills me with joy. The joy of living with them far outweighs the fear of death." This gives Vivi a glimmer of purpose, a shred of solace to hang on to, and it drives him to continue his journey with the gang, eventually leading them to the Aoife tree, the source of the mist. And when you scale it and dive into this, look, as an aside, this is one of the most unbelievable locations I've ever been in a game before. Like, I don't have any adjectives or fair comparisons to describe what this place looks and feels like. I mean, my God, why don't we as a society talk more about Final Fantasy IX? At the root of the tree, we get answers. The mist itself is the spirits of the deceased that cannot return to the planet because of the Aoife tree's interference. The mist's presence is causing war among the continents. And Vivi, being fully aware that this gaseous lifeblood has allowed him and his brothers to exist, decides it is best to destroy the tree's core and free the kingdoms of its wrath. It's a decision that echoes the Elric brothers' refusal to use the Philosopher's Stones selfishly. This idea that, yes, Vivi could potentially extend both his lifespan and keep his kind alive well into the future, but he cannot allow more weapons to be made. He cannot greedily pick himself or his brothers over peace. It is the most altruistic and human thing he could possibly do, right down to feeling massively guilty about it afterwards. Like Alphonse, like the clever puppet, Vivi's humanity is explored in his ability to move beyond his existential fears, beyond the ghosts of the past, and make a decision that prioritizes those that are still with us, even at his own expense. Something I've been trying to divert your attention to in all of these stories is this strange commonality that they all have. Yes, we have characters that aren't human discovering what it means to be human in each of them, but we also have this bizarre narrative tool in play. Crystallized memories in the form of ergo, coagulated human souls in the form of the Philosopher's Stones, stagnant ghosts of the past looming in the form of the mist. Why would each of these stories choose to use something like this instead of just using electricity or steam to create artificial life and explore humanity in that fashion? Why is it also necessary that humanity or memories be used as a battery for these characters to tell their story? And furthermore, why does each power source also cause just as much pandemonium as it does wonder? Why have this in each of these narratives? And I think there are two answers. The first is because each one provides us a moral dilemma to give our heroes a chance to prove that they're human. Vivi's selflessness, the clever one's choice to spare pain, Ed and Owl's insistence on another way. But the second answer might be a bit more subtle, and I think the best way to explore it is to talk about a story that doesn't have this narrative tool. Which I realize sounds counterproductive, but I want you to see how the story feels without the ghosts of the past haunting it. Seeing Mewtwo Strikes Back in theaters as a child was magical. This was when Pokemon was exploding onto the scene in the late 90s, and this movie, my goodness, visually the animation was so crisp, the hand-painted backgrounds, the attention to detail and genuine care that you get from 90s anime. It's stunning to look at in moments, even today. But watching it as an adult, narratively, it's kinda flat. Mewtwo wakes up. He's upset that he's been created in a lab as a clone of Mew, so he blows the place to smithereens. Giovanni finds him and attempts to befriend him, tentatively earning Mewtwo's trust. But of course, Giovanni is a dick and just sees Mewtwo as a slave. This doesn't sit well with Mewtwo, so he blows the place to smithereens. He kidnaps and brainwashes Nurse Joy and invites a ton of trainers to this island where he has somehow built an entire mansion and Pokemon Stadium, and also he makes a storm that the trainers have to get through to prove their worth. Ash enlists the help of Team Rocket, disguised as Vikings, to get across.
I didn't know Vikings still existed.
They mostly live in Minnesota.
Minnesota is canonically a location in Pokemon. They arrive, and then Mewtwo appears, claiming to be the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. Meanwhile, Team Rocket stumbles upon this Pokemon cloning machine in the back. This all culminates in several Pokemon battles between Ash and the real Pokemon, and Mewtwo and his cloned Pokemon. There are more than a few things that don't work about the movie. There is, of course, the message that fighting is wrong when the clones and the originals are stripped of their powers by Mewtwo. The biting and clawing is just, oh man, it's so sad to watch.
Pokemon aren't meant to fight. Not like this.
But also, the entire idea of Pokemon is that they fight, and this is different somehow. The other big thing is that Mewtwo is kind of horrible in this movie. His motivation after the first two betrayals that start the film are that Pokemon and humans suck. Like, he almost becomes Frieza. Just listen to this.
And purge this planet of all who oppose me, human and Pokemon alike.
Mewtwo in this movie is a stock bad guy. He was wronged a handful of times and now generalizes this to everyone and is essentially motivated by revenge. And that's fine, it kind of works, and it was still a fun movie, but it makes his eventual moment of redemption just sort of, oh, I'm sorry y'all, maybe not everyone is so bad. The Pokemon cry, Ash is revived, and Mewtwo has learned his lesson and is good now. We forgive the abduction and attempted murder. When you compare this character to the ones we've talked about leading up to this point, Mewtwo is kind of hollow because there is no attempt to understand himself. There is no moral dilemma he must face. He doesn't seem like he's searching for answers, he is just lashing out. And the question I'd like to pose to you is, would a narrative tool like Ergo or the Mist or the Philosopher's Stones make his story a more profound one? Would Mewtwo be more interesting if he too was powered or motivated by a memory?
I didn't know a Pokemon could talk like a person.
Pokemon? Which one am I?
Maybe it makes a difference to you if you're a Pokemon or a person, but not to me.
The Western release of Mewtwo Strikes Back, the version that I saw in theaters as a kid, the one that you've likely seen, does not include the first 10 minutes of the original cut of the film. We open on a scientific expedition to find Mew's DNA and subsequently a shot of a young Mewtwo in the lab. Inside of Mewtwo's consciousness, he is not alone. A voice comes to him. A young girl named Amber 2 and other Pokemon clones join him. It becomes clear that she is the consciousness of Dr. Fuji's late daughter Amber, the source and catalyst of his research. The endeavor all began because he wants to bring her back. This immediately changes the tone of the film. To know that the pain of loss is the spark that ignited this research adds a somber filter to this narrative. And it's only bolstered as Amber 2 teaches Mewtwo what living is like. Humans, Pokemon, wind, the sun, the stars, the moon, happiness, sadness. The other clones are not surviving. They are failed experiments, and Mewtwo has to process all of this in a very short amount of time. Saying goodbye to his first real friend causes an insurmountable amount of pain, and to keep their investment alive, the scientists wipe his memories, leading us to the start of the film that we all recognize. The confusion, the anger, the hint of something lost all begins to make total sense. You suddenly sympathize strongly not only with Mewtwo, but also Dr. Fuji. It's not evil scientists making an evil Pokemon. It's broken people creating something that is just as lost and tormented as they are. And when you apply this knowledge to the rest of the film, it completely recontextualizes Mewtwo's actions. The shot of him watching Ash and his Pokemon don't read as him looking for powerful Pokemon trainers. They read as him longing for that companionship and not fully understanding why. Giovanni's betrayal becomes less about humans enslaving Pokemon and more about his heartbreak that Giovanni won't be his friend. His first 3 clone attempts are the fully evolved forms of his first friends. And this was the vision, by the way. The Western script diverges strongly from the Japanese one. Takeshi Shudo, the chief writer for the film, says that the story was meant to be much more existential and present tough questions, questions that Mewtwo is meant to struggle with. The original script's direct translation reflects this. You find in it the threads of what the film was meant to feel like. Mewtwo isn't this cruel tyrant. He doesn't say tiny human brain. He doesn't proclaim himself the ruler of the world. His actions are less driven by power, but instead the need to validate his own existence. And believe it or not, Mew is kind of the confirmation of this fear. In our version, Meowth translates Mew as saying that true strength comes from the heart, but the Japanese Mew is a little more extreme. It proclaims that the true Pokemon will beat the copies if you take their powers away, and that in some translations, it can't forgive the existence of the copies. That little xenophobic shit. This is what leads to the big battle, and this is what leads Joy to say, what is this fighting? Both the real ones and the copies are alive now. Everyone is a living thing. Though they were created, they are living beings that live in this world. A very different message than
Pokemon aren't meant to fight. Not like this.
The dilemma in question wasn't that they were fighting, it was why are they fighting? They both have every right to exist. It's not about heart, it's about acceptance. There is no need to fight for your worth. Your worth is inherent because you live.
And don't cry, Mewtwo. You should be happy. You're alive, and life is wonderful.
All of that to say, the movie takes on a whole new meaning when you add that initial component of Dr. Fuji trying to bring Amber back to life. It does the same thing for Mewtwo Strikes Back that the Elrics trying to bring back their mother does for Fullmetal Alchemist. The foundation of these stories is rooted in the pain of loss, a supernatural attempt to undo that loss, and the suffering that follows that attempt. How being unable to move on lingers and festers inside of you. Each tale is a grand metaphor. Broken memories become a puppet frenzy and an incurable disease. The trapped souls of the past fuel killing machines and stir nations to war. A ruined man's research to clone his late daughter sets loose one of the most unstable and dangerous creatures the world has ever seen. And left there to pick up the broken pieces are these creations, now faced with the very same dilemma as the ones that created them. Where do I go from here? The true tragedy of Lies of P is revealed in the closing moments of the game. If you were paying attention to that statue of Camille earlier, you will have noticed that the inscription is signed by a GG, most likely being the Clever One's creator, Giuseppe Geppetto. The implication, if you piece all this together, I think, is that Camille is Geppetto's late wife. I think he placed her ergo in a puppet, and when her memories eventually came leaking through and influenced her behavior, this gave him an idea. Perhaps he can revive his late son, Carlo, just as Mr. Fuji attempted to bring back Amber. And I won't pretend to know exactly Geppetto's plan here. Beautiful as it is, this game is cryptic in some of its details, so what I'm about to tell you is my best understanding. Geppetto built the clever puppet using Carlo's heart, which contained Carlo's ergo. By giving him time to get to know his father, time to build friendships with everyone at the hotel, time to experience the guilt of taking a life, the consequences of telling the truth, the sensation of lying to spare someone's feelings, the chance to understand what it is to be human, Geppetto essentially prepared Carlo's heart through this puppet. And before the final boss, Geppetto asks you for Carlo's heart back. If you say no, you will fight Carlo's rotting, reconstructed body. Part of him is there, part of him is inside you. It's a vicious encounter, a mirror match, but in the end, Geppetto's son is too much. The clever one is overwhelmed and...
Were you going to destroy Carlo's heart?
Carlo wasn't fighting to get his heart back. He was fighting to destroy it so that he could finally rest. Seeing his father killed in a fit of rage, the clever one finishes off Carlo. And as the puppet holds him in his arms, bleeding and angry, Geppetto hesitates as he sees the puppet shed a tear. The tragedy of this game is that in this moment, in his final moment, Geppetto realizes that he had, in fact, revived his son. He just couldn't see it until it was too late. It's no coincidence that twice in this game you are faced with the moral dilemma of letting someone rest instead of trying to revive them. It's no coincidence that Carlo was trying to destroy his own heart. Lies of P ultimately is whispering to you that loss, though it does sting, cannot be allowed to rot and fester while you bargain for ways to undo what is already done. You must eventually move forward. If you don't, you miss the beauty of what is right in front of you, what has been right in front of you this whole time. Geppetto missed this. He was so obsessed with reviving his own flesh and blood that he failed to see that his family was there all along. That there is more than one definition of son. Something that I couldn't help but notice in my time playing Final Fantasy IX is that most of our heroes are, in one form or another, adopted. Zidane cannot remember where he comes from or who his parents are. He refers to Baku, the leader of this theater group, as his father because Baku took Zidane in. Aiko is one of the last of her kind. Her parents and grandparents are gone, but the Mughals watch over her. Vivi obviously cannot remember his origins, but he calls Quan his father because Quan is the one that took him in and cared for him. Dagger is treated as a princess, but it's eventually revealed that her real mother gave her life trying to save her. FF9 uses its characters and their interactions in a very dynamic way because although we have a lot of questions about where each of them comes from and how exactly they ended up here, it takes the time to make us care for them as people before we start digging into origin stories. Note how despite Vivi's crisis on this airship, he is the only one that calls into question his merit to be here. Even Steiner, the resident stick in the mud, immediately speaks up and says, "Why would those mages be the same as you? And why would it matter if they were?" Dagger never questions if Zidane can help her in the first act of the game. She kind of recklessly trusts him. One of the reasons that the cast is so strong is because they pick each other up in dark moments, especially Zidane, who never hesitates to lend a kind word. Because so many of them have no past, there is an unspoken understanding that I think they all share. Judge me based on who I am, not where I come from. And this message is further bolstered when we get answers about each character's past. Again, no matter how much we learn about the Black Mages, Vivi never loses the gang's trust. Each and every time, they choose to see their friend, not this manufactured thing. When it's revealed that Queen Braun is starting a war, when Dagger fails to save Alexandria, in both cases, everyone stands by her. Zidane, in each of these instances, stands resolute in his belief that the past does not define a person, which makes his origin all the more impactful. Zidane, we discover, is a genome clone created by someone named Garland. Garland's mission, in a way like Dr. Fuji's goal on a much larger scale, was to revive his home planet of Terra. By creating these shells that he calls genomes, he will recirculate the planet of Gaia's souls, its mist, with the mist of Terra. Then these genomes will inherit the planet, the souls of Terra filling each of them in a cataclysmic planetary event. TLDR, he wants to absorb this world to revive his people. And Zidane, as well as Kuja, have been sent to the planet to facilitate that. But as a child, Zidane lost his memory of this and grew up on Gaia naturally like everyone else. However, upon fully grasping this, he spirals. His philosophy crumbles from underneath him. How can he believe anything he has said to his friends this entire journey about the past being irrelevant? He was sent to kill them. He was sent to prepare this world to be absorbed. He is their enemy. He is dangerous, a threat to all he loves. He doesn't deserve their kindness. One by one, his friends intervene. One by one, they show him the same understanding and comfort that he showed them. In probably the most beautiful sequence of the game, his friends remind him that his existence is valid, that the past and the way he found his way to them does not matter, that how he was created does not make him any less their family. They remind him that he is not alone. To close this out, I want to tell you about my favorite scene from FF9. The one we just discussed is tender and moving, but I think this one best ties all of this together, and is less spoilery. There's a moment in the Mage Village when Vivi is wandering restless and Dagger is worried about him. Zidane says that he's just trying to figure something out for himself, clearly understanding what it's like to not know everything about his own past. Zidane says maybe he'll find what he's looking for, a place to call home. And to me, that is the unifying thread that ties all of these stories together and what tethers them to us. Because while it is fascinating to watch as these characters slowly earn their humanity, it's even more deeply and emotionally fulfilling to see them learn the lessons that their creators never did. That replacing someone you've lost is a fool's errand. That your value or validity does not come from the circumstances of your birth, but what you do with your life. That a heart full metal can love just as deeply as one of flesh and blood. That family is not always genetic, and that home didn't die with the one you lost. It can be found again in the people you still have. These stories gently proclaim that it's in people that you find your greatest strength, that you find a place to call home. It's okay to want to run from it all, but maybe it's through them that you can find joy. Perhaps the joy of living with them far outweighs the fear of death. You aren't alone. Hello there, it's good to be back. I feel like it's been a while. Has it been a while? It has been a bit of a creative slump for me in the past few months, but with this one, I hope I can break out of that funk. If you enjoyed this, give it a like and let me know down below what character absolutely belonged in this video and I didn't talk about. And if you want to see more videos like it, hit that subscribe button down below. Maybe even the bell too if you want to know when I post something new. And of course, if you really want to support the show and help make it possible, join me over on Patreon. For $1 single a month, you can get access to bonus content like creative input, regular updates, bloopers, editing, and behind-the-scenes live streams, and your name in the credits like you see here. You might even get a shout-out like this month's featured patrons. Apollyon, Eufufuvd, Paradox 3D, Stanley Lamb, Hans Florian Los, Arya and Calcifer, Starbird, and Hack Attack 242. Thanks again, my friends. Take care of yourselves, and please have yourself a damn good one.
You like that new outro screen? That's pretty nice, huh? It's pretty clean. A buddy of mine made it. If you want animations like that done, hit him up here. His details are here and in the description.